How the media turned Ronaldinho versus Cristiano Ronaldo into a global rivalry. Screaming, "WHO was better." There was a smile, and there was a stare. One man played like football was a festival. The other played like it was war. And somewhere between those two images, the media found a story too powerful to ignore. They didn't just compare them. They didn't just analyze them. They built a rivalry. And once the world believed it, there was no turning back. The first frame, a smile versus a storm. In the early 2000s, Europe was already in love. The object of affection, Ronaldinho. He danced through defenders as if they were props in a carnival parade. His grin disarmed referees. His flicks embarrassed entire backlines. When he wore the shirt of FC Barcelona, the stadium didn't just cheer goals, it cheered imagination. Cameras adored him. Every broadcast zoomed in on that elastic headband, that effortless jog, that flash of teeth before a free kick. Commentators spoke in poetry when he touched the ball. He wasn't just a footballer. He was a feeling. Then, across Europe, another story was quietly forming. At Manchester United, a young winger ran until his lungs burned. He trained after training ended. He stood in front of mirrors rehearsing free kicks. His name was Cristiano Ronaldo. Where Ronaldinho floated, Ronaldo charged. Where Ronaldinho laughed, Ronaldo locked in. Two different energies. The media noticed immediately. And they smelled narrative. The birth of a comparison. It began subtly. A headline here. Is Ronaldo the next Ronaldinho? A segment there. Can the Portuguese star match Brazil's magician? At first, the comparison felt harmless, even flattering. Ronaldo was climbing, Ronaldinho was reigning. But the media doesn't just ask questions. It repeats them. And repetition creates belief. Soon, every great dribble from Ronaldo came with a reminder of Ronaldinho's artistry. Every dazzling free kick from Ronaldinho came with a mention of Ronaldo's athleticism. The world didn't realize it yet, but the framing had begun. It wasn't about two players anymore. It was about contrast. Joy versus discipline. Natural genius versus manufactured greatness. Brazilian rhythm versus European precision. The debate wrote itself. A night in Barcelona. There was a Champions League night when the cameras lingered longer than usual. Barcelona were warming up. Ronaldinho juggled casually, smiling at the crowd. The stadium buzzed with affection. Across the tunnel, Ronaldo stretched in silence. Focused. Sharp. The broadcast cut between them. The commentary voice lowered dramatically. Tonight, the analyst said, two philosophies collide. But the players weren't thinking about philosophy. They were thinking about winning. The rivalry was being built around them, brick, by people who needed tension to sell the story. The magazine covers. Soon, glossy magazine covers did what television had started. Ronaldinho on one side, laughing. Ronaldo on the other, serious. Taglines screamed, "WHO is the true king. Art or athleticism." It didn't matter that they rarely spoke about each other publicly. Silence doesn't stop speculation, it fuels it. And fans began choosing sides, not because of direct conflict, but because stories demand heroes and challengers. The style war. The media framed it as a war of styles. Ronaldinho, the street footballer elevated to European royalty. Ronaldo, the disciplined prodigy molded into a machine. When Ronaldinho nutmegged a defender, headlines called it magic. When Ronaldo leapt higher than physics seemed to allow, headlines called it obsession. Both compliments. Both loaded. The subtext was clear. One was born with it. The other built it. And the world loves that debate. Almost as much as it loves football. A shift in momentum. Time is ruthless in sport. As Ronaldinho's peak shimmered and slowly began to fade, Ronaldo's ascent became undeniable. Now the narrative flipped. Has Ronaldo surpassed Ronaldinho? Is discipline greater than flair? The same media that once crowned Ronaldinho as untouchable now positioned Ronaldo as inevitable. And suddenly, admiration turned into comparison fatigue. Fans who adored Ronaldinho felt defensive. Fans who admired Ronaldo felt validated. The rivalry intensified, even if it lived mostly in headlines rather than on the pitch. The psychology of contrast. Why did it work so well? Because humans think in opposites. Light versus dark. Smile versus stare. Joy versus hunger. Ronaldinho embodied freedom. Ronaldo embodied ambition. The media didn't invent those traits, but it amplified them. It sharpened the edges. It reduced complexity into archetypes. And archetypes are powerful. A conversation that never happened. Imagine them sitting together in a quiet room. No cameras. No microphones. Just two footballers who understand what it means to carry expectation. They might laugh about the comparisons. They might respect each other's journey. But the world rarely sees those quiet moments. It sees headlines. And headlines need friction. The social media explosion. When social media exploded, the rivalry entered a new phase. Clips were edited side by side. Skills compared in split screen. Free kicks replayed with dramatic music. Ronaldinho could never. Ronaldo wishes he had. Algorithms rewarded conflict. The debate wasn't just about football anymore. It was about identity. Fans projected their values onto their chosen star. Do you believe in effortless talent? Or relentless work? The rivalry became philosophical. Respect beneath the noise. Lost in the noise was something simple. Both changed football. Ronaldinho inspired joy in a generation that needed beauty. Ronaldo inspired discipline in a generation obsessed with improvement. The media turned contrast into competition. But contrast doesn't always mean conflict. Sometimes it means balance. The long-term legacy. Years later, when highlights of Ronaldinho still circulate and Ronaldo continues breaking records across continents, the rivalry feels less sharp, but more meaningful. Because it wasn't just about who was better. It was about what football should feel like. Should it be played with a smile? Or with a clenched jaw? The truth, of course, is that football has room for both. And perhaps that's the irony. The media built a rivalry to simplify the story. But the real story was richer. Ronaldinho showed the world that football is art. Cristiano Ronaldo showed the world that art can be perfected through relentless work. Together, even unintentionally, they defined an era. The final whistle. In the end, the rivalry wasn't forged in tackles or arguments. It was forged in comparisons. In side-by-side graphics. In debate panels. In bold font questions. The media didn't lie. It didn't fabricate moments. It simply chose to frame two extraordinary careers as a duel. And once the world accepted that frame, the rivalry became real. Not because they hated each other. But because stories need tension. Even now, years later, the debate still resurfaces in comment sections and documentaries. Smile versus stare. Joy versus obsession. But maybe the true legacy isn't who was better. Maybe it's that together, they gave football two different dreams. And the media, hungry for narrative, stitched those dreams into a global rivalry that still echoes today. Because sometimes, the biggest battles in sport aren't fought on the pitch. They're written in headlines.